Everybody, and welcome back to the Stat Lines Matter Fantasy Football Show. We are back again. This is week 11. I'm hoping that all your teams cashed. I'm hoping if you're playing season long, I hope that you got closer to solidifying that much coveted playoff spot. We are back again. We're joined by none other my esteemed co-host Anthony Lukasik. We are down one man again this week, Mr. Mark Stewart, but he will be back with us. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Stat Lines Matter. We're a weekly podcast show. We are on all major platforms. We are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcasts. So make sure to go to all of those platforms, like, subscribe. Make sure if you're watching this show for the first time, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. It helps us out a ton. Anthony, what's good, man? How did last week go for you?
Hey, how's it going, man? It's great to be back as always. Last week was a tough week to call. It was a lot of bustle around the league. Some good plays here and there, but it was an interesting week. This week's going to be just as interesting. Bye weeks, man, they're killers.
Yeah, bye weeks are killers. And just so you guys know kind of the show format, if you're just joining us, Anthony is more the season-long dynasty and redraft, the redraft league expert. Not that he's not a DFS expert, but that's where I come in. I play the DraftKings specifically for the NFL slate. So that's how we break it down. Last week I did not do so great in my NFL contest. In all the picks that we came up with, most of mine were busts outside of Justin Fields, which was my quarterback play. But it was a tough week for me all the way around. I did manage to eke out the season long win because I'm only in one league on the season long side of things. Most of my focus goes to the DFS side, but looking to bounce back. And one of the things, Anthony, that I've learned probably this year more than any, is that I used to think that if my plays didn't hit, that I made a bad play, but sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes game script, sometimes things just go don't go according to plan. It doesn't mean that your strategy wasn't right or your methodology or your thought process behind choosing the pick wasn't correct. It just means it didn't work out that weekend. That was something that took me a little bit longer to find my footing. You have to find your formulas and what worked for you. But I know I was texting you watching that Bills game. Like, man, like how do we not peg this down? We had Justin Jefferson last week against a much worse secondary. Here he is against one of the best secondaries in football, and he's going nuts. And I'm like, should we just target guys playing in the toughest matchups? So anyway, that's something that was just an observation that I was making, throughout this season, and I just wanted to share that. So anyway, are you ready?
If I could chime in on that.
Go, yeah, please.
Yeah, right ahead. First of all, shout out to Brian. Congratulations on your W, man. Congratulations there. But no, as far as we have a saying in the industry, it's trust the process, right? The process works more often than not. When it comes to fantasy football, we're dealing with numbers here. And so it's just a statistics thing. When you trust the process over time, it will pay off, right? And so every now and again, you get busts of weird things happen in the NFL every week. The first 3 weeks of the season, you all heard me how much I was ranting about how much I hate the first 3 weeks of the season because they're just, it's just all over the board. You can't trust anything yet. But once things starts to stabilize out, more often than not, the process works. Trust the process.
Yes, yeah, and that's the thing that is particularly hardest to come by, right? What is your process? A lot of guys like us, particularly DFS guys like myself, I still don't know anyone else personally that plays DFS like I do. That's daily fantasy sports. For those of you unfamiliar with the acronym, so that's DraftKings, that's FanDuel, that's Yahoo. And sometimes, just refining that process, it's a road of solitude. And even really in fantasy sports, I'm thankful to do this show with you. I'm thankful to do the show with Mark, and for the company that I have, in that space. But outside of the league and basically the guys that I play with, I really don't know a lot of guys that do fantasy sports, period. So when you're trying to formulate your process, sometimes it can be tough because your basic, a lot of times you don't have anyone to bounce those ideas off of, particularly in DFS, because it's a one, for the most part, it's a 1 day season, right? And you get your payout at the end of the day. So just sort of realizing, kind of, am I on the right path here is a big, is one of those, is one of the big parts of the process that you have to become aware of and sort of know if you're going in the right direction. And like I said, sometimes it's hard to know if you're the only one. So Anthony, looks like we got a 3-game slate. As usual, we break down 3 games and we also answer questions throughout the throughout the show. So feel free to send your questions in, and feel free again to hit that like, hit that subscribe. It helps us out a lot. The first game we have on the slate is Dallas against visiting Minnesota. We have a 47.5 over under, and Dallas is favored by 1.5. Anthony, I need your insight. I need your expertise. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, for sure. We'll break this one down for you. Before I do, I just wanted to touch on the process thing that you were talking about and finding your own.
Please, yes.
When I started playing fantasy football about 20 years ago. And when I first started playing, I was reading all articles and really paying attention to guys like Elliot Harrison, Michael Fabiano. They're kind of like the godfathers of the fantasy football industry. And I really got my start from them. Shout out, those guys were great. And so once I figured out that this is something that I actually enjoy doing and I really wanted to dedicate some time to it, I developed my own algorithm. I actually sat down and developed my own algorithm that I've been using for almost the last 20 years now. And over the course of that time, I've won over 20 titles. And so, it's across various leagues and things like that. But, it like I was saying, this stuff works, guys. And so if you find, you don't have to go out and sit there and do all the research yourself. You can actually, listen to other analysts like I did when I first started trying this out. And, guys like us, we're trying to make it right. And so if you like what we're giving you, if you like our content, make sure you guys give us a like and subscribe and share all that stuff. We could use all the help we can get. And with that, let's roll into the first game, Dallas at Minnesota, right? And so we'll start out in the backfield here. Tony Pollard, he's been nothing shy of a godsend this season, right? 25 touches last week, giggity. 22 on the ground for 115 and a touchdown. Caught 3 of 6 targets for only 13 yards, but man, he got it done on the ground, so who cares, right? But the problem is Zeke is going to be back this week. So, it's going to be limiting the baseline for both players. It's a little unfortunate, but I do think that they can get some good work in here in this game. The Vikings defense is 7.8 yards per attempt. That's tied for the second worst in the league for passing, but they've only been moderate against the run. And so I think that Dallas will be able to move the ball here. And when you want to look at running back plays, you want to look at offenses that are going to be doing a lot of scoring, right? Because you want the running backs to get into that red zone, get those red zone touches. Behind the helm with Dak, he's been great in his return to action. We'll continue to view him as a low-end QB1. CeeDee Lamb, his primary target. He's been consistently getting it done. Less than 8 targets in only 2 games this season. CeeDee Lamb's been tearing it up. Michael Gallup has been a little bit quieter than we would like, but he could be due here. 13 targets over the last 2 games. He's been greater than 80% snap percentage in both those games. Lamb shouldn't get a lot of attention, and so if they spread the ball around at all, Gallup should be in for some targets. But let's not forget about Dalton Schultz, right? Dalton Schultz is resurrection to fantasy relevance now that Dak Prescott is back in the lineup. Without Dak, Schultz just does not get any looks, but Dak loves this guy. And so 15 targets over the last 2 games for Schultz. Came back to life with Dak in the lineup. It's been great. And so there's definitely some targets here, some room to go around, and there's definitely a lot of fantasy points here to be had. Anybody you liking from the Dallas side of the ball in this game?
So obviously from a DFS standpoint, it's daily fantasy. I like Dak Prescott a lot. He's coming in at 6.6K. And if you're joining us for the first time, I like a 4 times multiplier. So I'm going to need him to get just shy of 24 points. I'm sorry, just shy of 28 points in order to make value. Dak, his numbers have been increasing in consecutive weeks. In consecutive weeks, he's thrown for more yards. His prop bet, he's thrown for increased yards each and every week. And his prop bet this week is 250 yards. I think he goes clear past that. And what we're looking at here is a matchup between two offenses that can really push the ball back and forth, that can really get the ball downfield. Obviously, you saw what the Vikings were able to do on the road in one of the toughest, if not the toughest environment for this season against one of the best defenses in the league, top 2 or 3, depending upon the category that you're looking at. So I would feel really confident, particularly at that price, targeting Dak. You're looking at CeeDee Lamb at 7.5K, going up against the Vikings secondary. They are 30th. They're ranked 30th in fantasy points per game. So you should not shy away from CeeDee Lamb. He had 15 targets last week, and obviously some of that was in overtime. But when you're looking at this game, you can't guarantee overtime, right? But what you can probably guarantee is that the Vikings are probably going to score some points at home. Now, I do like Dallas to win the game. The Vikings are coming off an emotional win. The Cowboys are coming off a game that they probably should have won, giving up, I believe it was a 14-point lead, if I'm not mistaken, and losing in overtime. So I believe Dallas is going to come out motivated to actually put some points on the board. As it relates to the backfield, I think that's an avoid. I actually think that Zeke, if he actually cut his hair, I think he could probably return to some of his former success. But the beard and the hair is a little long. I think when his hair was short, and when it was short beard and short hair, Zeke, still with the halter top, he was running up and down the field. But the longer his hair got on, from his chin and from his head, the shorter the production became. So if I'm looking now, you mentioned Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup hadn't scored a touchdown since week 1. He had 7 targets last week, and that's including him actually exiting the game for a short spell. I believe he had 6 the week before, so his targets have been increasing. Dalton Schultz at 4.3K is another nice play. He has a 21% target share. So when Dak isn't looking at CD, he's looking at Dalton. So I think he's an excellent play. He has a 13% matchup advantage according to Pro Football Focus. So he'll be matched up against Kendricks for the most part. So for me, I think there's plenty of meat on this bone. I think the Dallas Cowboys will be coming in ready to try to hang a number. Whether or not they'll be able to actually win the game, isn't it? That's just what I think. I think that they will. I don't know if the Minnesota Vikings coming out, because they should have lost that game. They should have lost that game. Fumbling the snap at the 1-yard line with the quarterback who has 84 yards rushing, up until that point, or I believe actually a little bit less because it went into overtime, but, he ended up with 84 yards rushing. That just doesn't happen. But, that's every now and then you'll get a crazy game like that. But I do like the Dallas side. I like both sides, but I like the Dallas side of this game. I don't think you have to shy away from, the usual characters there.
For sure, man. Yeah, I mean, and as far as Vikings go, that stop on the 1 too was crazy. I mean, I can't believe they couldn't punch it in there. And so,
Yeah.
The touchdown on the backside of that with the fumble and all that, I'm surprised Buffalo just didn't take the safety and just trust on their defense in the final seconds of the game. But, there we have it. So for me, after winning that game, though, I mean, they were competitive the whole way with the Bills. It was a great game. The people are calling it one of the best games of the year. And, it's tough not to like them at home, even against the Dallas team. It's a pretty solid team with a great defense, right? And so, look, Dalvin Cook has been on fire and could be leaned on in this game, but I'm sorry, what was that?
Who got a great defense?
Dallas.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were talking about the
right.
Vikings. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so even against a great defense, I still think I like Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, he doesn't hold a lot of streamer appeal, but his baseline has at least been solid for an emergency play. The waiver wire is thin this week, guys, and so Kirk Cousins might be a guy you need to trust. Justin Jefferson has been nothing short of incredible. Highlight reel catches for days. I mean, I don't know if you saw this last game, but it's hard to imagine even the Dallas defense slowing them down, right? Adam Thielen is actually been kind of steady in reserve too for the passing game. 7 or more targets in 8 straight games. Only 2 TDs on the season, and he is an old favorite red zone target from Kirk Cousins, right? And so that could change at any second. TJ Hawkinson, the new addition to the team. Yeah, it's a little bit scary to trust him here against the Dallas defense, but you figure he's going to be involved after 19 targets in the last 2 weeks. I'd say he's pretty acclimated to the system. And so you'd probably find rolling him out there. For me, the spotlight in this game, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Justin Jefferson. Is going to need to continue his streak if Minnesota does want to win this game, right? I think he'll have to showcase again. I look for Justin Jefferson to put up some massive totals here with some solid support from Dalvin Cook. But Dallas's run defense is pretty it's pretty okay. I mean, 4.8 yards per carry, it's not great. But their 35 sacks to lead the league is incredible. And so Kirk Cousins is going to be under a lot of pressure in this game. He's going to want to dump it out quick. I think that makes TJ Hawkinson a bit of a valuable target here.
Yeah, I think that I was looking at this, and I was looking at Justin Jefferson. His price on DraftKings has gone up to 9.1K. But he's been targeted. He has in the 5 out of the 6 games where he's had double-digit targets, he's hit the century mark or over the century mark each and every time. And if I think that Dallas is going to win the game, that means that the game script should favor Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins threw 357 yards last week. So the Dallas defense should not scare you. But this play that I'm targeting the Minnesota guys for large field tournaments. I wouldn't target them in cash just for the exact reasons that you stated above. That Dallas does have a terrific defense, but we saw on the road what Minnesota was able to do. I'm just thinking, just human. We saw the way they were partying on the plane. That was a huge win. So a lot of times I think that the emotion, if we're gonna try to quantify the emotional quotient here, I think that the emotion edge would go to Dallas looking to get back on the left side of the win column here. And I think that the Minnesota Vikings, I think they were partying probably for all the way into Monday. So but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about fantasy production. So I don't mind going back to Kirk Cousins. He's right now his roster percentage is for projected for 3 to 5%. His price is at 6.1K. You can't be mad at that, particularly after coming off of throwing 357 yards. So for if you were going to throw one of these lineups into $1 million maker, I don't mind a Kirk Cousins, Jefferson, Hawkinson stack. I mean, Hawkinson had 10 targets against the Buffalo Bills. So you would have to. So basically, what I'm saying, the point I'm making there is that the defense really doesn't matter. He's still the yardage wasn't there, but the targets were there. And it's kind of like you hang around a barbershop long enough, you're going to catch a fade. If they keep throwing Hawkinson the ball, he's going to have a big game, and it could be this week. So I don't mind the receiving options in this one. Thielen, I just have no interest in Thielen. And Dalvin Cook, even last week with the game that he had, I mean, he only had, I believe, 20 yards up until that 80-yard run, and he still only had 14 carries. The guy's averaging 5 yards a carry on the season. Don't understand why he only had 14 carries last week. Again, he still only had 20 carries in a game only 3 times this season. No time has he had over 20 carries. It's been 20 right on the nose. So I don't know if they're trying to keep him from reaching some sort of incentive or what's going on. But if you got to back
it's a health thing,
5 yards to carry, he's a guy that you probably want to feed a little bit more than 14 times a game. So so that's how I see this playing out. I don't mind any of these guys. If you're looking, I mean, and then you look at Jefferson, it seems like the harder the competition, the better he plays. So I like the game. I like it to go over. I like Dallas to win it. But that's why we watch. So we're gonna move on to our next matchup, which is Kansas City against traveling to LA to play the Chargers. Over under 50, and Kansas City is favored by 5.5 points. Anthony, I need your expertise. How do you see this breaking down?
Absolutely, man. Before we get into that, do you want to get into this question we got here?
Oh, absolutely, man. So I'll read it, and then you go ahead and you can answer. He's got a 2 QB league. Both of his QBs are on bye. Top of the wire are Rodgers, Jones, Goff, Matt Ryan, Mills, Zach Wilson, Baker Mayfield. Who should I stream for the week?
Oh, that's rough. Oh goodness.
That's a great picture. Whoever that is, right there.
Definitely not Rodgers. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. Mac Jones. Who does New England have this week? Let me look that up.
The Jets.
The Jets.
They
No,
played the
definitely not
Jets.
Mac Jones. Those corners have been on fire. Sauce Gardner is just tearing it up as a rookie. Jared Goff, the Detroit Lions.
They
Detroit
played the
Lions.
Giants.
You got Indy. You got Houston. Zach Wilson has actually one of the best fantasy schedules for quarterbacks for like the rest of the season, including the fantasy playoffs. That's kind of crazy. I don't know if I would trust him for that, but the schedule is supposed to be there. And so, low key, I'm probably
Okay.
the only one, but I actually kind of like Baker this week. Look, man,
Okay.
he's got to be pissy, right?
Against
With
the
PJ
Ravens.
Walker taking his spot. He's keep in mind this guy's a former Cleveland Brown. He was there for 4 years, playing the Ravens twice a year. And he's very familiar with this Ravens team, and they can be passed on. I'm not sure that I would trust it, but low-key, I kind of like Baker to surprise some people this week. It's kind of like the dark horse. Gosh, you got some terrible options there, my friend. I would probably lean Goff, and man, just throw the flyer at Baker. Just close your eyes and go for it. That's probably who I would go for off the cuff.
Not bad options. I would happen to probably agree with you there. Anytime you can attack that Ravens secondary, you attack it. And I do actually like Zach Wilson. The last time they played the Jets, I believe he had a pretty good game, and so did Jacoby Myers. Had over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. He was targeted 13 times that game. So for whatever reason, I guess they have the Jets number, at least in the passing game. So I wouldn't mind a little Zach Wilson. But Baker, like I said, anytime you can attack that Ravens defense, the secondary in particular, that's something that you got to consider. So those will probably be my two picks. But all right, so now we're looking at is that okay? So all right, now we're looking at Kansas City against the Chargers. 5.5 favorites, over under 50 points is what we like to see. Anthony, take it away.
Yeah, so starting out with the Kansas City backfield, I like Isaiah Pacheco here. I know we usually kind of try to shy away from calling any one specific running back from Kansas City, just because it could go any direction. But in this one, I think I do like Isaiah Pacheco, and he's on a lot of waiver wires too. If you're hurting for a running back, you might be able to just pick him up and put him straight into your starting lineup. I like his solid baseline. He's got a good shot at getting a touchdown this week, making him a solid play. 16 carries last week for, I want to say, 80 something yards. And so he's had a solid 5 yards per carry last week. He looked good outside of that fumble, and he got the ball right back after he did fumble. They didn't shy away from going back to him. And so I'm kind of liking him leading the backfield right now. Pat Mahomes should continue to be magnificent despite, a banged up wide receiver core. Kadarius Toney, this is who I'm getting hyped about. I'm starting to get a little hyped about Kadarius Toney. I liked him a lot last year. I loved it when he got traded, and now we're in 3 weeks here, and so I want to see him come online. Juju got taken out last week. He's done bunny for a little bit. I hope to not see Juju back on the field for at least another few weeks. And so with Kadarius Toney, I'm expecting no less than 8 targets in this game, man. And he can do a lot with that, MVS should get a slight uptick in his usage, making him a borderline flex play. McCole Hardman missed last week with an abdominal injury. I've not seen an update. I have not been able to check today. I'm not going to lie. So keep an eye on McCole Hardman and see if how he's doing on that injury update and see if he's going to be able to play. But any one of those guys should be workable options for your lineup, especially if you're trying to get through bye weeks and overcome some injuries. Travis Kelce, he's going to continue to dominate. He's the primary target over in Kansas City, and every game is a good game for Travis Kelce to take over. So yeah, Kansas City as always, a lot of great options for you. How do you like these guys?
Yeah, well, this game isn't on the main slate, so I'll be talking about it from strictly a season-long perspective. Obviously, you're going to play Mahomes. You're looking at Pacheco, and I totally agree with you there. I actually just picked him up in our season-long league. And you look at the 16 carries, right, and you go, okay, that's obviously a pretty decent amount. But the second leading rusher after that was Pat Mahomes. And not only in yardage, but also in carries. He had seven carries. But between Edwards, Clyde, Hilaire, and Jerick McKinnon, they had a total of 1 carry between them. And then you mentioned the fumble where Andy Reid decided to go right back to Pacheco. I mean, if you're gonna read any tea leaves, those are the one. I mean, that was probably the biggest sign, because you had 2 veteran running backs that you could have easily, and everybody would have understood that you would have like, okay, young fellas, have a seat. Let's bring in the veterans, because that game wasn't out of hand. That game, in fact, the Jaguars outscored the Chiefs in the second half, and the Chiefs ended up winning, but the game was in no way a blowout. So, and you look at Pacheco with those 16 carries. Also, you look at the increase in snap percentage on the season. He'd only been averaging about 20%. He got up to 55% of the snaps last week. So those are the trends that you look for, particularly this late in the season, for him to have that trust in his rookie running back. And Pacheco has actually looked pretty decent all season. He's looked like the more explosive back. The receptions actually from the running back spot went to Jerick McKinnon. He had 6 last week. So, but from a streaming option and from if you're looking to pick up running back, I picked up Pacheco myself. I was happy to get him. You look at Kadarius Toney again, another guy that may be on your waiver wire. I picked him up like 2 weeks ago. And this week, you hadn't had a chance to check, but none of the starting receivers practiced today. Juju obviously didn't practice. Van Scantlin didn't practice, and Miko didn't practice. So it's looking real nice for Kadarius to at least have an increased role, even if one of those guys come back or both of them come back. All 3 aren't coming back. And considering he had 8 touches last week, right? He had 4 catches, he had 2 rushes and 2 punt returns. So they were trying to get him involved and get him touches in the game anyway. So even if those guys do come back, I look for Kadarius Toney role to increase as the season goes on. You look at the way this game played out in week 2, there was 51 points scored there. So this over-under is right on that number again. And the Chargers actually the Chargers actually carried that game offensively, even though the Chiefs won. The Chiefs had a defensive touchdown that actually helped them push that over the edge. But go ahead and break the Chargers down. Tell us how you feeling about those options.
Yeah, so the Chiefs defense is kind of like all over the board, aren't they? They're allowing the 66.9% completion percentage. It's pretty good for an offense. It's good enough for 8th worst in the league. They've allowed 19 passing touchdowns, most in the NFL, only 3 interceptions. So that's got to be great news for Justin Herbert, right? But then 27 sacks, tied for the 8th most in the league. And so, the KC defense is kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. And so when it comes to the LA offense, Austin Eckler, he had a bit of a down week last week against a tough San Francisco defense, but his targets out of the backfield keep this guy's baseline lovable, and include 4 games with double-digit targets. This guy's about as solid as they come, and so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Herbert is the one that we're all worried about, right? He's been struggling hard this year, and with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen both been down, it's just you keep hoping for the Herbert turnaround any second now, and we're just not getting it. We've been calling for a while. I love his chances here, but we'll see if he gets Keenan Allen back. Maybe that'll help him out. It's just tough sledding for him right now. He threw 48 times. Last time these 2 teams met, he threw for 48 times, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And so if we get numbers like that, I'm in. Of course I'm in, right? So we'll see. They're at home this time, so you got to figure. But then again, no Allen, no Mike Williams, and so we'll see if Keenan Allen. He's been dealing with that hamstring, but he is set to come back to practice this week, and so we'll see if he's ready for game time. With Mike Williams, he's running sunlight on the IR from the high ankle sprain, but reports are that he's returning to practice this week. Now, I don't think he's eligible because one of those weeks was a bye week, but that should still count towards his 4-week tenure on the IR. So they could activate Mike Williams in this game. Potentially, they could have both the primary wide receivers in this one. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, they both practice on a limited basis this week. But the issue with Keenan, the issue with Keenan, and it's another week, but he practiced every week, every day last week in a limited fashion. So basically what you're looking for probably for both of these guys, I wouldn't pay attention to much until Friday. If they get in a full session on Friday, you can look for both of them to be back. And Josh Palmer will probably assume his role back to the third option there. And Eckler is going to do what Eckler does. I fully expect Herbert to have a good game. I mean, quarterbacks have been eating against the Chiefs defense all year. They're playing at home. They need this win. I believe the Chiefs are the Chargers are 5-4. So all the normal options I believe are on the table here. Again, this game isn't on the DFS, on the main slate where the $1 Million Maker and some of the larger tournaments are. So so what I did this week is I actually dropped Palmer because of this information, because I believe that at least one of them are coming back. If Mike Williams come back, he had, I believe, 8 receptions, over 100 yards receiving, and a touchdown against this same squad last year. I'm sorry, in week 2. You look at what Christian Kirk was able to do last week, had his best game of the season, 2 touchdowns. And this has been an MO of the Chiefs defense the entire year. You can target the receivers in this game. Feel free to start, your guys. Obviously, if Mike Williams is going to play and you've been stashing him, you're going to start him. If Keenan Allen is playing, you're going to start him. So I believe you can start all of these guys with confidence. You're never going to not start Eckler because of the sheer volume that he gets in the backfield and obviously the reception. So this is kind of a straightforward side of a straightforward breakdown here. But I would, I see this probably being another high scoring game. And another thing you can always feel confident about when you're, if you're playing daily fantasy or if you're playing season long, is that the Chiefs are going to put up a number, which is going to force the skill position guys. If you have any of those guys that are facing the Chiefs, that's going to force those guys to put the ball up. I mean, that's what happened with the Jaguars last week. They forced them to start, forcing them to start pushing the ball down the field. And conversely, Christian Kirk had a good game. So I believe you can feel confident on both in this game, playing out, probably reaching somewhere close to the over, and getting some good production on both sides of the ball from your skill position guys. Yeah, so absolutely. we got our last matchup of the day. Looks like we have the Tennessee Titans, which is a game tomorrow. The Tennessee Titans
Thursday night game.
Are they traveling to Green Bay? Tennessee traveling to Green Bay
in Lambeau. Yep.
Yeah, 41 point over. Looks like Tennessee's favored by 3. Is that right? I think I wrote that down.
I don't doubt it. The way I wrote this down, I don't doubt it.
Down, Anthony, what do you like in this game, if anybody?
I do like the Titans in this game. I'll tell you why. Okay. King Henry is going to just continue to lead the way. The Packers' rush defense is, we all know, terrible. 4.8 yards per carry. They're tied for the 5th worst. Both teams have a moderate pass defense, but the Titans don't really throw. It's mainly just on Henry anyway, which should be just fine in this matchup, right?
Green Bay is favored. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Green Bay is favored?
Yeah, by 3, yeah.
I still like the Titans here. And I know Green Bay showed up a little bit at home last week against Dallas. I think it was a little fluky. Three touchdowns to Christian Watson. I don't know how you don't call that fluky. But on the Tennessee side of the ball here, I just think it's going to be all Henry all day long. Tannehill looked solid last week in his return to the lineup, but it's hard to trust his volume. Robert Woods remains unreliable at best. Treylon Burks didn't get a lot done coming back in the lineup. Austin Hooper showed up a little bit, but I wouldn't try to stream him. I think this is just all Henry all day. Where I like the Titans most is actually on the other side of the ball. We'll get there in just a second. What do you like any of these options for DFS here? Oh no, you can't because it's Thursday, right?
Yeah, it's a Thursday night game, but I will tell you this from a ad drop option, right? Treylon Burks came back last week. He played 34 snaps, which was his second most snaps since week 3 against Las Vegas. You look at the routes that he ran. He ran 30 routes of those 34 snaps. That was the most on the team. Now, the targets weren't necessarily there, but it was also Ryan Tannehill's first game back as well. So if you're looking for a deep sleeper, a guy that can, he was their first round pick, a guy that you can maybe start to come on in, later in the weeks, maybe in the playoffs for you, and you got the space. he's a guy that I would look at adding. I was pretty close to adding him until Christian Watson had the game that he had, and I actually picked him up. But just from a deep sleeper standpoint, a guy that ran 30 routes, that's more than Allen Lazard, and that was more than Christian Watson. Allen Lazard ran 27 routes, and Christian Watson only ran 24 routes, and they were both on the field for 60 and 52 snaps respectively. Now you look at it, so that should tell you, when Treylon Burks is on the field, they're looking to obviously pass, and he's going to be their number one option. Eventually, at some point, they're going to see what they have out of him. So, just some a little bit of the deeper analytics when you look at adding and dropping a guy, if you're looking at adding a guy and you got the roster space, Treylon Burks is a guy that I think has some intrinsic value and somebody that I would look at picking up here, in the later weeks if you have the space, and if you're not somebody that you rely on tomorrow, but somebody to keep an eye on, that you could probably pick up. No one's going to be looking at him, and maybe he could possibly end up being a low end wide receiver 3 for you. So what about this Green Bay side, Anthony? How do you see that breaking down? Do you like any plays on that side? It's a Thursday night game. Those games can be kind of wonky. What do you like? What do you don't like?
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I love that take. I absolutely love that take on Burks. I absolutely love it. For a second there, I thought you were calling for the glory play and put him right into your lineup, and that would definitely be a glory play. But I could see the path. I could see the path, especially with all the focus on Henry, right? The play action pass, it's not bad, And so
you're gonna be you have 7 and 8 people in the box, So your receivers, if they can beat man coverage. That's where it's going to live and die. If you got receivers that can beat man coverage, there's going to be plays that can be made. Look what AJ Brown was able to do, with Ryan Tannehill. So,
right, absolutely, and that's who they got to literally replace AJ Brown. And so, looking at the Green Bay side of the ball here, this is where I really like the Titans. And so the Titans are only allowing 4.4 yards per carry flat, tied for third best in the league. Their defense is actually kind of scary good against the run. Only 2 rushing TDs allowed on the season. That's the best in the league by a lot. And so if you look at what made Green Bay successful last week, they started leaning on Aaron Jones a little bit, and they started utilizing that play action pass. They're the outside zone run scheme is what really opened up the passing game for them. Though it's what opened up Christian Watson for those deep targets, right? And so without the run game to lean on, I think Rodgers is going to continue to struggle like he has most of the year. Where Tennessee can be beat is actually deep on the deep ball. And so I think Allen Lazard is going to lose a little bit of his luster here on the season with the ridiculous week from Christian Watson, the man everybody wants to talk about on this side of the ball. And in all honesty, I'm looking to run it back with Watson in this one. I think that if you're going to make a play on the Green Bay side of the ball, the only guy that I'm looking at all would be Christian Watson. I'm looking for him to get at least 2 or 3 good shots over the top of this defense, because that's where this defense can be beat. And so Rodgers is going to have to take that shot. I don't know if he'll come up with it. To me, it's kind of like a DFS glory play, but I think Christian Watson is definitely that streamer from this game for this side of the ball. But otherwise, I really like Tennessee to kind of dominate Green Bay's offense.
Yeah, again, those Thursday night games are kind of wonky, but Green Bay has been, that offense has been looking for somebody, in the receivers to step up or just stay healthy. Now, let's just start there. Let's just start with somebody that can stay healthy. If Christian Watson, if he can, find some sort of health fairy to keep him on the field. They took him with the 2nd round pick. Obviously, looks like the kid can make some plays. He made some against, again, kind of like that Justin Jefferson logic here against one of the best defenses. That now, Cowboys secondary isn't the greatest secondary, but obviously it's a pretty decent secondary. And for a rookie to be able to find that room, particularly on such only 4 catches, 107, 100 over 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, and you look at the Tennessee Titans defense, particularly the passing defense, it's nowhere near what Dallas's defense is. So, you would look for them. Okay, here's what you can look for. You can look for the shots to be taken. Whether or not they'll convert you can't predict that. But in fantasy football, what you're looking for is opportunities. You want to know that they're going to be looking for your guy in the offense. You want to know that, right now they're drawing up plays. That's part of the game plan. And his average depth of target is 13 yards. That's better than Tyreek Hill. So if he can just stay on the field, I believe that, the production will be there. If he's on your waiver wire, I would definitely go out there and pick him up. I dropped Palmer and I picked up Watson. That was the ad drop that I made. I'm happy with it. I was surprised I was able to get him. I used, I believe, $3 of my fab to get him. And I ended up bidding against myself. No one else even bidded on him. I could have got him for nothing. So I just knew that someone was going to go out there and try to grab him, but I would rather pay the $3 and make sure I get him, or at least put my best foot forward and have him than to not have him. So, and I think it was perfect timing, just given the fact that looks like the Chargers flankers are getting healthy. So I believe it was a good ad drop for me. And so if I was looking to play anybody, I'm sorry. And I think that I actually am going to start him this week, tomorrow. For the first time, I'll be, and he got in a full practice. So whenever Christian Watson has been practicing, he's gotten in very few full practices. He didn't get, I don't believe he got in any last week. He got in a limited session yesterday, but today he practiced in full, and he does not carry an injury designation. So, that should be some good information if you were kind of waffling, want to know if he was healthy or not. He got in a full session, one of the few that he's gotten in all year. And I think that, I think, and that's what all the Aaron Rodgers has been looking for. We know that when Aaron Rodgers has a guy that he trusts, that he feeds him the football. So I like Watson here. Aaron Jones is kind of like an Eckler type of guy. He obviously gets, they give him the ball, but he gets a pretty decent amount of receptions a game. So, if you got him, I definitely, you never not start Aaron Jones. He can always pop off with 2 or 3 touchdowns. But again, those Thursday night games, they're always kind of weird. Normally end up being low scoring because guys just aren't in their routine. But I'm going to go ahead and give Watson a spin tomorrow, and hoping that it works out for me.
I like running him back this week for sure.
Yeah, well, particularly against that defense, I think that if it was maybe against, again, one of the better secondaries in the league,
I'd probably be a little bit more hesitant. Yeah,
and they're playing. And
if the run defense wasn't so good, if this could be like a really big Aaron Jones week, absolutely. But yeah, no, I like the matchup. I could see the path.
So. Yeah. So anyway, that's a little bit of and I think. Okay. So how about this? Here's a question that I have for you. This is a question coming from Rob Hunter to Anthony Lukasik. I have
you got to write in, man.
I have Deontay Foreman and I have Pacheco. And I'm thinking I may pull the lever on Pacheco and start him this week. What do you think? What do you think about me making that leap?
It's definitely a leap, man.
Yeah, I'd say Deontay Foreman got 30 carries last week,
dude. And he's been looking solid. He's been looking. I've loved Deontay Foreman since he came into the league. I was so bummed when he tore his Achilles, and that's that road to recovery. I'm so glad he's getting another shot in the league. I loved his talent. He's actually a really good running back, and so. The Baltimore matchup sucks. It does. It does. And how much do you expect Carolina to move the ball? Like I said, I kind of like Baker this week, but let's be honest, if he puts up a complete dud, nobody's going to be surprised. And so, if Carolina can't move the ball, then Deontay Foreman's screwed. On the flip side of that, you got the Chargers, who are the second worst run defense in the league, going against Isaiah Pacheco, and a Kansas City offense that should project to get up on these Chargers pretty handily, and so you would think that Pacheco should see some decent volume here. And so I would say if you're looking like you're going to win your matchup, and you need the safer play, if you want to trust like the analytics type of thing, go with Pacheco. If you want to trust the better talent, if you want to trust the better the higher upside type of thing, if you're projected to like lose your matchup this week, I might roll with Deontay Foreman. I think it's kind of a case by case basis.
Yeah, and you look at. So here's the thing that's dancing in my head. You look at when Andy Reid has found at least a 2 down back, I'm not even going to 3, but if he found, like those Westbrook type, Brian Westbrook, those guys have produced in like major ways. And so when I looked at the snap increase, it doubled, went from 20%, I believe 20.7 to 55.6, somewhere around there. It increased 30.9%. That was the difference. And you look at the fumble, like I said, I'm looking at all of these, I'm reading the tea leaves here, and I'm going, and then you look at again, they're going up against the Chargers, giving up 5.7 yards a carry. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, man, this could be, this could be in that offense where they're going to move the ball. There's going to be opportunities to eat. And when Andy Reid finds his running back, his guy, he uses them. He feeds them. Throughout history, we know guys in the Shanahan offense, guys in the Andy Reid offense, those guys produce. Those guys, but Andy Reid just hasn't had that back in recent years. Clyde Hilaire is really a scat back when you really look at it. He's an undersized guy.
I can't believe they took him
around one. He's reached the ceiling of his talent. Jerick McKinnon has been in the league for a long time. He's been a backup the majority of his years, battled some injuries. He hasn't been able to bust through to be that 3-down guy.
He's a good third down running back.
Yeah, and he's a local guy here out of Sprayberry High School. But I think that I don't want to say the irony, but you look at Pacheco, and I watched him at Rutgers, and you can just see he was just in a bad situation. Bad talent around him all the way, bad flankers, bad quarterbacks, just bad everything, bad O-line. And I watched their games, and I actually used them in college fantasy a couple of times. So I'm aware of his talent level. The question is just like, is he going to be one of those guys coming from, he came from Power 5, but coming from basically a university that's not known to be a football powerhouse, that's able to break through, make a name for himself. He's in a great situation, so I'm just, anyway, those are all the variables that were kind of going on in my head when I picked them up. And the reason why I'm considering, benching a back that got 30 carries a week ago. So anyway, I appreciate, I can use you as my own personal fantasy guru from time to time.
Hey, it looks like we got a question
here. It says from ZA215, trade Gabe Davis and Elijah Mitchell for St. Brown. Am I giving up too much for one? I guess he has running backs Barkley, Brandon Jacobs, Eckler. Wide receivers are T. Higgins, Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, and Rondale Moore.
Rondale Moore,
yeah, Rondale, yeah.
All right, I'm going to
Rondale Moore.
I'm going to assume. Do you want me to jump in on this one?
Go right ahead. Yeah.
I'm going to assume this is not a full point PPR league, just for the sake of evaluating this trade. I'm going to say hell no. Gabe Davis is almost an ideal flex player. And so if he's your flex wide receiver or wide receiver 3, if you run a 3 wide receiver team, I'd try to keep him there with T. Higgins and Mike Williams, but Mike Williams being hurt. Yeah, I kind of get the want for an upgrade there. I'm not sure Amon-Ra St. Brown is the consistent guy that you should be trying to target for that. If I was trying to make this trade for Amon-Ra St. Brown specifically, I look at maybe giving up Elijah Mitchell and Rondale Moore. I think Mitchell's got a lot of sneaky value here, and I wouldn't let him go lightly. Keep in mind, he out-touched Christian McCaffrey last week, and moving forward, there's supposed to be right about a 50-50 split in one of the best run offenses the league has ever seen. And so Elijah Mitchell definitely has some value there, especially this late in the season, especially with how banged up the running back positions are, and how quickly they get banged up. I would not let him go lightly, and I think giving up Gabe Davis with him is just a little bit too much. But Rondale Moore, I think I would be willing to let go. Now, if this is a PPR league, that changes just a little bit. I might try to actually keep more in that sense, and then let Gabe Davis go. Those PPR targets are just crazy good for those leagues. But otherwise, yeah, that's what I'd be looking. Otherwise, that's the other thing I want to mention. Josh Jacobs. If you're trying to move a running back for a higher end wide receiver, look at moving Jacobs, man. Jacobs' schedule for the rest of the season starts to take a huge downturn. And when the Raiders are not moving the ball, clearly Josh Jacobs tends to hurt a little bit, but he does have that upside, right? He's been tearing it up this season, and you might be able to find a fan of his. And so I would take a look at who likes Jacobs and take their best wide receiver.
All right. Yeah, I kind of lean the other way on this one. I like St. Brown. He's had some injuries, but he's had 10, 9, and 11 targets the last 3 weeks. That's the type I like guys who are ones. So you look at Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is just way too volatile for me. Last week he had a good week, but it would surprise no one if he came out next week against the Chargers and had 2 catches for 35 yards. And with St. Brown, the thing that we look for again is back and forth, right? We look for matchups where the game script is going to fit your guy. So if you're with the tight, if you have Derrick Henry, you want leads, right? You want him to be able to, you don't want them to get down 14, 21 points because that totally takes him out of the game script theoretically, right? So I like guys that are ones, and the Detroit Lions defense is the worst in the league. So they're going to be passing the ball a great deal of time. I don't care how good Goff is. I think he's serviceable enough to get him the ball. And you saw that last week against the Bears. St. Brown had over 100 yards receiving. He came within a whisper of having a touchdown on some little trick play. So they try to force ways to get him the ball. And then again, I mean, you saw the Bears put up, I believe, 30 points against them. And they're always giving up large amounts of points. And he'll never be scripted out of the game because Detroit is never going to have a lead. And again, with Mitchell, I just think he's just injured all the time. If he's finally back healthy for a week or two, and I can go out and I can get St. Brown, that's a guy that I would probably look at getting him. And then again, he's the 2. Christian McCaffrey's obviously the guy there. So, and now Christian McCaffrey does get hurt, has a history of injuries. So, you can play that handcuff. And we do know that when Mitchell gets the carries, that he's very productive. The question is just, health wise, what are you gonna, are you looking to, do you believe that he'll be healthy enough? And you're just gambling because
Second year in the league, man. Come on.
Say what?
It's his second year in the league, man. Give him a break.
Yeah, but he's been hurt every year.
It's been 2 years.
He's been hurt. And he's an RB2 now. So I'm just saying, I like ones. If I can get ones, I probably would get the one. I mean, but Gabe Davis could go out and have 3 catches and 3 touchdowns for 150 yards. I mean, but
I don't know, man. I have a hard time trusting Detroit's offense. They ain't lighting it up like they were in the beginning of the season. You know what I mean? We're not in the beginning of the season anymore. I just think Amon-Ra St. Brown's just been a little bit up and down for my taste for giving up that much value. I want a little bit more consistency. I'm picky about my wide receivers though.
Okay. All right. So now we come to the point of our show where we go to the Bears corner, where Anthony breaks down how he sees the Bears coming for this week, the future. They play the Atlanta Falcons down here in Atlanta. Anthony, take it away, Bears corner.
Yeah, we're visiting Atlanta this week, so it's a nice little rivalry between us. Maybe we'll jump on some live streaming or something as we're watching the game. That'd be nice, right? But Fields, talk of the town, right? Good gracious, he's been awesome, and it's been so fun to watch. It's nice to actually have fun watching a Bears game for once, isn't it? And so, Khalil Herbert got banged up. That's part of the big news. He's landed on IR now with a hip injury. So, hey, look, David Montgomery hasn't been getting the volume with Khalil Herbert splitting those touches. I don't think that they're going to be trusting Justin Ebner like they've been trusting Khalil Herbert. And so I do like a slight uptick for David Montgomery. However, keep in mind, Fields is the real RB1 for this team. And so I would kind of treat Montgomery like you were treating Herbert before the injury. You know what I mean? I'm a little bit more optimistic about his output, but I'm not all in on Montgomery just yet, just because I'd like to see some more actual utilization. He's such a talented back, but the problem is he's a free agent next year, right? A lot of people don't expect to see him with the team. I think that a lot of people think that they might just hand the reins over to Khalil Herbert, let Montgomery walk instead of paying him. And so this is a super talented guy. Anytime he gets the ball, he goes lights out. He's got such great contact balance. Doesn't have a lot of top end speed, but is still, in my opinion, one among the top 10 running backs in the NFL, talent wise. I believe. I always have. And so, we'll see what they get done against this Atlanta offense. I really want to see what Montgomery gets as far as production wise. Here goes. We'll be using this game moving forward as a good example for him for the rest of the season. Mooney has been a consistent weapon, but his upside remains limited with Fields not really needing to throw the ball. Just runs it. Just Speedy Gonzalez out there. And so, you know, uh, this also makes Chase Claypool's big welcoming to the team a little bit delayed as well. A lot of people are calling for the touchdown from Claypool in this one. I'm a little nervous about Mooney. I think that you're going to see a little bit more work in for Claypool here. We were supposed to see it last week. We didn't. I think it's going to be a point of emphasis this week, especially knowing this coaching staff. I like Chase Claypool to get at least some opportunities here. We'll see whether or not, like you said, if they convert. But Cole Kmet, 3 consecutive games with a touchdown, 5 touchdowns in the last 3. Please be a real thing. Please, please, please be a real thing. Oh my goodness, it has been great. And for the first time, and I'm not sure if anyone can remember, the Bears defense is actually the Achilles heel of this team. And so we should see the Bears offense continue to put up points here. We should see the defense cede a lot on the ground to an Atlanta team that really loves to run the ball, has kind of gotten away from that in recent weeks. Cordell Patterson working his way back into full health. Last week was a really down week on that Thursday night game. Like you said, Thursdays, man, they get wonky. I think there was a combined total of like 3 fantasy points between Tyler Algier and Cordell Patterson. It was awful. I think it was like 10 yards total or something. I don't know. But yeah, look for them to get more involved this week. I kind of like Kyle Pitts a little bit, maybe Drake London a little bit. You saw the Lions were not shy about going straight to Amon-Ra last week against the Bears. I don't think that the Falcons need to be shy, but you were calling for it last week. Desmond Ridder. Can we please just see Desmond Ridder? How do you watch Mariota in that Carolina game and say we should continue to start him? I just don't understand the thought process there. Like, I don't care. Put the rookie in. I don't care where you're at record. This guy is going to be losing you games. Did you see that play where he was falling down and throws the ball like behind his back as he's rolling and just throws it up into just 3 defenders? He doesn't even know where the ball is going. Well, what are you doing? You are not an NFL quarterback. NFL quarterbacks you should not get paid millions of dollars to throw that ball. Right?
The last 4 out of 5 games, less than 200 yards passing for Mariota, man.
Man, if we could see Desmond Ridder in this game, I would love to see if he can make a connection with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I think that would really round out this offense and give them what they've been looking for. But this is Bears corner, not Atlanta corner. So go Bears.
Yeah, I mean, so I have a question for you. Has that been the talk, at least with the talk radio or locally? Does this feel like they want to try to force or at least try to target, make Claypool a little bit more focal point of the offense at least this week, or is that not what's going on?
No, as far as Claypool goes, Justin Fields is the guy that everybody's been ramming down your throats since the preseason, really. And so now that he's actually tearing it up, it's unstoppable with all the Justin Fields talk. But as far as Claypool goes, he's more of a low-key back channel analyst kind of discussion kind of guy. We've been talking about him a little bit. We all kind of see the path for him in this game. And so, we'll see. We'll I think he's going to get the opportunity. We'll see if they get the conversion.
Yeah, he's got like a David Boston type of build. I don't know if you remember him from Ohio State. Play for the Chargers, but he's a specimen.
You heard me freak out when we got him, right? 6'4", 238, runs a 4.38 40.
Yeah,
I know. I know.
And he made plays in college, so it's not like this guy is not coming from some sort of pedigree. It's really it just sucks that he's been a part of some tough quarterbacking situation. I mean, obviously, Ben was at the end of his tenure in the NFL, and then with Trubisky, and then with the rookie quarterback, and now he's
drafting George Pickens.
Exactly. And now with Justin Fields, who's had his struggles well documented passing the ball, and that's what you saw last week, and that's at least the problem I see with the Bears is that he can run the ball, fine, but when he has to drop back and make a play and the defense knows it, they can't block for him. Like they simply cannot. They don't pass protect well at all. So I don't necessarily know if it's fair to say that Fields can't throw the ball just yet, because he's got PTSD every time he's back there. Even when he does have time, he has happy feet because he doesn't know if he's going to get his block knocked off. And
He's not
even when
ready to
he
throw
is,
the ball yet.
yeah. And even when he is letting the ball go, someone's making contact. Someone is getting a hit. Oh, it looks like we have a question here. Says I have Andrews coming off a bye, but Komet is his tight end number 2. What should he do?
As a
I
Bears
say
fan,
if Andrew plays, you got to play Andrew.
oh yeah, no. If Andrews plays, you got to play Andrews. But um, as a Bears fan, I say roll with Cole Kmet while he's hot, right? But no, I think what you really should do is if Isaiah Likely is on your waiver wire, drop Cole Kmet, pick up Isaiah Likely, and just roll with whichever one gets the start, whether it's Andrews or it's Likely, especially
Okay.
against Carolina. Like, good God.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what's interesting about this game. I know we're running a little bit over on the Bears corner. Is that both of these defenses are ready to give up some points. It's just that Mariota, like I said, last 4 out of 5 games, less than 200 yards passing. Chances are he's not the one that's going to be able to put them up. And the Falcons have the worst pass defense, but the Bears don't really do that all that well. So but if this is a week where Claypool, the table couldn't be. The Falcons are 32nd in both. They're 32nd on DK for fantasy. They give up the most fantasy points against receivers, and they're the worst pass defense by 20 yards in the entire NFL. This is the week to go, and we don't sack the quarterback very much. So this is and Justin Fields is from Atlanta. So this is the game for him to go ahead and get loose. He's 7.6K on DK. So if you want to play, I think he's fine for tournaments and cash. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that little tidbit out there. This could be.
I mean, I'll add one thing onto that. So for Chase Claypool, he's, of course, the reason why we love him on the Chicago Bears offense is because he can run the deep route, get the deep target, just the go get it ball, right? Justin Fields just throws it up. Let's Claypool go get it. That enables Mooney to hit those short range and intermediate routes a little bit cleaner, right? Takes some of the coverage off of him. It's fantastic all around. It opens so much up on the offensive side of the ball completely. It's so he might get one of those deep bombs, but I'm actually looking for Claypool's production to come on. I think he gets a jet sweep or two, man. I think he gets a jet sweep or two that he just he breaks one. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm calling for.
I'm gonna play him in a lineup. Then I'm gonna. You put him in one of my lineups last week.
I did. I'm gonna run that back this week. I'm telling you right now. I'm running back Chase Claypool this week. I'm calling for it.
All right. So speaking of guys you want to play, let's get into your start sits, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm just gonna run through these real quick because I know that we're over on time. And so, like I said, it's a rough week for the waiver wire, especially for streaming quarterbacks. This is a really rough week, guys. And so I'm gonna say almost all streaming candidates have negative matchups here. It's guys like Goff against the Giants, Mills against the surging Manders defense. Those are pretty much kind of the cream of the crop. I mean, Daniel Jones as well going against the Lions as well. Those are pretty much your best plays, and I can make an argument against any of those guys, right? Outside of that, you're looking at Russell Wilson versus Las Vegas. Great matchup, but Russell Wilson, I know it. Mariota versus Chicago. Pray. Pick whichever one you like, roll the dice, and just pray. There's a argument to be made for and against each of these guys. None of them stand out as a lockstep. Lock Fields in for DFS. That's all I gotta say. Gus Edwards, I like at the running back position against Carolina coming off the bye. I plug him right in. A lot of people are hesitant. They think Kenyon Drake maybe split some carries. I don't care. Roll Gus Edwards out there. It's gonna be a great play. Kadarius Toney at the wide receiver position. I'm loving him this week. He is my play of the week. Tight end streamer, I like Hayden Hurst against Pittsburgh. I'm going back to this well. Look, pass rush equals tight end utilization, and guess who's back in Pittsburgh? TJ Watt. Guess who crushed Burrow in week 1? All right, I really like Hayden Hurst in this one. As far as my sits go, I'm going to roll over to Derek Carr against Denver. Denver's defense has been stupid. Like, it's crazy that they can't win, that their offense can't put up bare minimum points because that's all their defense is giving up. I mean, they're 4.9 yards per pass attempt. That's first in the league. 61.6% completion percentage. The least amount of passing yards allowed on the season. League low in passing touchdowns allowed on the season. Only allowed 20 points plus once this season, and actually it was against the Raiders in week 4. So, I mean, I'm still going to say go ahead and sit Derek Carr, though. Najee Harris against the Cincinnati. Look, I know he went off for 20 carries last week. We love to see that 99 yards. It's actually not bad. Like, go Najee. Still didn't look great. And, Jalen Warren getting more and more involved. I'm not sure how much running you're going to get in against Cincinnati. They might need to pass a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and say continue to stash Najee Harris if you've been able to bench him. Amari Cooper against Buffalo. Abysmal on the road. Do not play Amari Cooper on the road. If you don't know this by now, here it is, week 11. I'm finally giving this one to you. Don't play him on the road this season. Tyler Higbee against New Orleans. 8 of 8 targets for 73 with the backup quarterback. That's pretty good last week. I don't care. I'm still not playing against New Orleans. So they're one of the best defenses going against the tight end position. So for those of you who are really big on Higbee this week, coming off last week, sorry to disappoint, guys. But that's what I got for this week.
Okay. So I'll run through my 3 quick DFS plays. Number 1 is Dak Prescott, at the quarterback position. Dak Prescott, like I said earlier, 3 weeks in a row, numbers have been increasing. The passing number has been increasing. First week was 207. Second week was 250. Last week was 265, albeit in overtime. But 3 touchdown passes last week. And we have an offense that can push Dak. So I like and push that Dallas defense, put some points up on the board. Obviously, we want it back and forth. And like I said earlier, they're coming off a loss. And what we've seen in the past is when Dak is pressed, he will make the play on his own. So if that's tucking in and run, getting those, picking up those first downs, Dak sort of puts that offense on his shoulders, and he'll call his own number more often than not when he's pressed up against when his back's against the wall. So I like Dak Prescott for 6.6K. So that's a nice salary saver. Interestingly enough, my play at running back this week is David Montgomery. David Montgomery is 6.1K. What we do know is that the Falcons ain't blowing nobody out, so he won't be scripted out of the game at all. With Herbert, on the men. I like for David Montgomery. He was the highlight of the offense last year. I don't think that's gone away. He's only averaged 3.8 yards a carry, but he's going up against the Falcons, and we know with the tandem of at least Justin Fields and whichever running back has been back there. I look for him to go ahead and he's only got 2 touchdowns this whole year. I think he's got a good chance to double that number and actually get to that 20 carry mark. And at 6.1K, he's a guy that I'm looking at adding to a lot of my rosters. He'll probably be in at least half of them, so that's 50% exposure. So there's somebody that I'm really, really high on this week. And I also, and my last pick, I think we were a week early on Tyler Boyd. We saw the Mixon one big game he has every year. We had 5 touchdowns. It had 5 touchdowns that game. So nobody ate at all except for Mixon, in that game. So I just think we were a week early. I wouldn't pull the plug on the Mixon play. I'm sorry, the Boyd play just yet. He's averaging he only got 6 catches in that game, right? He's averaging 7 targets a game. So if there's a little bit of pushback, there's a lot of meat left on that bone. He's averaging 12 yards per target. That's better than Devontae Adams. That's better than Tyreek Hill. That's better than DeAndre Hopkins. That's better than Stephon Diggs. And with Chase still out, I think that Boyd has an opportunity to have a real big blow-up game. So I'm going back to the well again. A lot of times it's hard for me to do that because my recency bias, when a guy does me dirty, it's hard for me to go back. But I think
I know, right?
Yeah, but I think I'm gonna, and obviously he's going up against the Steelers. The Steelers are giving up 263 yards a game, 263 passing yards a game. We've seen big games from, Gabe Davis, and the list goes on against guys who have gotten a chance to, really pad those stats against that secondary. So those are my 3 plays for the week. Tyler Boyd is 6.5K. I didn't give his price. He's 6.5K. So he's some 6.5K. So he's some nice mid-range guys. Hopefully that'll help you, help you win some money in your DFS. If you do play DFS, hopefully that'll help you win some money, maybe take down a couple of tournaments. And you can ship me a Cash App if it does. So that's our show for the week. Again, we are Stat Lines Matter. We are a weekly podcast. that we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcasts. We put out new content every week. We put out content every day on all of our social media platforms. That's Facebook, that's TikTok, and that's Instagram. So please find us on all those platforms up under Stat Lines Matter. Hit the follow. And if you are new to us, feel free to leave us a message and just let us know where you found us at. If you found us via this show, if you found us word of mouth, let us know how you discovered our show. Let us know how you discovered that content. And if you're here on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. We appreciate all of you guys joining us. For myself, Mark Stewart, who is down today, but he'll be back soon enough. Anthony Lukasik, it's been so much fun. Once again, weekly, one of my highlights doing this show with you every week and doing this show with Mark. We appreciate everybody joining us, and tune in next week, same time, same back station. Tell a friend. Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock. We'll be here for you next week.
Peace.